Coach?
Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Few more gray hairs after last night, right?
Exactly. So you know how it is in high school sports. It always gets to be more interesting than it needs to be, right?
What were you thinking at halftime? You guys were down, I think, 27-23, and Mainland was scoring touchdowns, moving the ball against you. What did you say to your boys at halftime?
Oh, just to relax and it's just play our game, stay composed. We felt like we were playing. We weren't playing an awful game. We just had a few turnovers that led to some easy points, and really at that point there was really no need to panic. Just to settle in and play one series, one possession at a time.
What's going on with this team? I mean, you had a rough start there. You played a couple of defending South Jersey champions in Cedar Creek and St. Joe, and we're 1-2 at that point. You got a win over Lower, but what turned it around? I know we talked after the win after Ocean City, and you kind of said to these guys, "Hey, stay patient, stay confident. You're a good team. Once we get through this little bump in our schedule, we're going to take off." And did they really believe you at that point?
Yeah, I didn't think we were playing awful football. Those two teams are pretty good football teams, and we knew we had a lot of talent. We had a lot of kids that were first-time players on the defensive side of the ball. We made some position moves, and we needed experience. I don't think that we had enough experience at that point. And, to start with those two, obviously great programs right now, right off the bat, didn't help in terms of getting the kids early experience. but listen, I mean, that's why we get into coaching, and that's why kids play the sport to compete. And, obviously we have great senior leadership, and they really took the bull by the horns, and they wanted to have a great senior year. And, we knew that the rest of the games would be winnable. To win 5 in a row, that's pretty tough to do. And regardless of who you're playing or how you're playing or where you're playing, and at any level. So, I think our senior leaders stepped up and they made a conscious effort to say, hey, we're going to win the remainder of our games, and we're going to do whatever we can to get in the playoffs, and that's what they've done.
Talking about your senior leaders, guy I had a chance to do a story on. You can check that out, glorydaysonline.com. Alex Walk. Talk about this kid a little bit. As soon as I posted that story, Denise Gallagher, a former teacher over there at Absegami, said, man, this is one of the best kids I've ever taught. Amazing young man. And it was really an honor to do a story on a kid like that and really give him some exposure about his career and what he's done over the last 4 years there. Really the heart and soul of this team.
Oh, there's no question about that. Alex, from a standpoint from a talent standpoint, is, in my opinion, one of the best players in South Jersey. And, he's also one of the most unselfish players in South Jersey. So he comes to work every day. In the summer, he was there every day. He was the vocal leader. He was also the leader by example. Sometimes you get kids that, that'll talk but won't actually, get out there and compete and do what they need to do. And he's the kind of kid that's going to do both. I think he has the respect. He commands the respect from every kid on the team. He's tough as nails. One of the things, he's got a 96 GPA, around the 1200 2-part SAT. He's a smart kid, and he just has that charismatic ability to really have the wherewithal of what needs to be said and when it needs to be said. And I think the kids know that when he's speaking, he's not, generally he's talking from a standpoint of the truth. And I think that's been one of the key reasons for our success. I think he's kind of jumped up, and there's a couple other kids, Chris Dolan, Sahi Glover, those kids, Stephen Guerrera, those kids have kind of stepped to the forefront and said, hey, listen, this is our senior year, and they've shown tremendous leadership, and I think that's why we are where we are today.
Yeah, and you have to have guys like that to have a good season like the one you have, 6-2 right now, and 5-game winning streak. If you don't have guys like that, you're not really going anywhere. And talk about that for a little bit as a high school coach. When you have a group of kids that come up through the program, they believe in what you're telling them, and they really put in the work, and you see it when a group like that gets to be a senior, it all kind of pays off for them.
Yeah, the game has changed so much over the last, however many years here, and with the recruiting being the way it is, and, 5-star this, and there's, social media, and everything is really, in my opinion, has gone more towards, and I was a recruiting coordinator, so I'm kind of at fault for some of it, but everything's gone more towards the individual and less towards the team. And this group is completely opposite of that, and I got to be honest with you, we were sitting there after the game last night and finally realizing for the first time as a staff that the regular season was actually over. And it's been the first time in a couple of years where we sat back and we're like, the season's over already? And it's just been so much fun to be around these kids, to be at practice with them every day. Our seniors, I'm going to be really honest with you, we've been killing ourselves because we feel like as a staff we need to give back to them because they've given so much to us so far this year. Never wavered, even with the 1-2 start. Never doubted what we were trying to do as a team, and really just believed in each other and have tried to change the culture of what's happened here the last couple of years, and have done a great job in doing that.
Talking with Absegami coach Dennis Scuderi, big 43-34 win over Mainland last night. Got you to 6-2. You guys were in the playoffs, and a big reason for that. Talk about this guy a little bit. Freaky Andy. I mean, he's really come out of nowhere. He was kind of behind Ibn Wilkerson last year. Got some touches, but really didn't evolve into what he is now. And here's a guy who's only played football for a couple of years, former soccer player, and man, he's become one of the best backs in South Jersey.
Yeah, tremendously explosive. I think the biggest difference between him this year and previous years is his physicality. I think he's finally realized. I mean, he's a big-bodied kid, 6 foot, 6'1", 190 pounds. He's a sub-11, 10-9 type kid in the 100-meter dash. So I think he realized that with his speed, if he brought and his body type, if he was more of a physical presence on the field, that it would bode well for him. And I think that's what you're seeing this year. I mean, he was, in my opinion, last night, he was a man amongst boys. I mean, he literally was running kids over, spinning, and he had such a will and desire to win. And at the end of the game, we were in the huddle and we're getting ready to run a play up 2 points. And he was like, "Coach, give me the ball. I'm going to score." And the next play he goes in and he runs a kid over and he gets into the end zone and you're like, wow, and it's special. It's one thing when a kid says, "Give me the ball, I'm going to score," and it's another thing when he does it the way he did it. And to be honest with you, he's another kid that's just a tremendous kid. He works hard. He comes to practice every day with the intent on getting better. We just have a really good group of kids, and I think that's why last night when we were down a little bit, I never, to be honest with you, hesitated or wavered on the thought process that we weren't going to win the game. I just knew the character that was in the locker room, and I knew what they were going to do, and I knew they wouldn't let their season slip away. So
you're talking about Freaky Andy running over people, and our producer Cole Raring, former offensive lineman at Mainland, he's nodding his head over here. Kid was an absolute beast. At least the last month and a half, he's really been tearing it up. I know I was at that game against Ocean City. He had a great game, 250 yards, a couple touchdowns, and man, it's fun to watch a running back like that when he gets rolling.
I'll tell you what, it's fun when you're the head coach and he's on your team. That's for sure.
Makes play calling a little easier, right?
Yeah, and you have to give credit to Mainland, their coaching staff, and their kids. I mean, I thought they did an excellent job. Chuck always does a great job. A couple of their guys that are assistants, I had one on our staff a couple of years ago, and they do a nice job. Mike Wilson, I had at Middle Township, was with me, so they do a really nice job. And I thought that they had their kids well prepared, and you got to give their kids credit, for a team that was winless. They really played their hearts out last night, and they have a lot to be proud of.
I'll tell you what, I've seen them a couple times this year, and they have a tough defense. I mean, nothing comes easy against that squad.
No, you're not kidding. And the running back played outstanding also last night. And it was just one of those games where their kids wanted to win just like our kids wanted to win. And sometimes that's the most dangerous formula when you have a team that's hungry for a win and they got a little momentum. And but again, I was proud of the way our kids settled in and kind of took over there at the end.
Good stuff, Coach. You're up against the break. Got to let you go, but congrats on the win and good luck in the playoffs.
Thanks, guys, and we appreciate all that you do for South Jersey.
No problem, man. Have a good weekend, Coach.
Take care. Have a nice day.
That was Coach Dennis Scuderi from Absegami.